on Facebook, but a lot of people still don't have Facebook. Oh, looks like we're about to get ready. All right. Ready when you are, Robin. Thank you. Did you play it, Robin? I don't know. I was waiting for her to play the theme music. Do y'all hear it? I don't hear anything. Robin, are you playing it? I'm gonna go ahead and share it. Oh no. I don't know what's going on with that. Okay, guys. Well, welcome to Rocki's Reality. Hi. So glad to see your faces. Yay.
Good to be here.
Yay. So Mahogany and David, you all are on mute, just so you know. We can't hear you saying hey. Okay, you like, I'm waiting. Okay, so welcome back to Mahogany, Toya, and David. Yvelette, you are virgin. We're popping your cherry. This is your first time. Of course, thank you. It was only a matter of time. Like I tell people, your moment is coming. People inbox me all the time, like, when are you gonna have me? I'm like, don't worry, your time is coming. It's just, Hey, Joycelyn, thanks for joining us. So I want to say welcome back to Mahogany, David, and Toya, because Mahogany was actually on my first season, I believe. Mahogany, you were on when we were talking about the riots or the uprising. Yep. And then I had Toya on when we were discussing, was the blended families, Toya, that you were on?
Yes, blended families and divorce, I think it was.
We were talking about that. And then I had David on when we were addressing mindfulness and meditation. I think that was during the second season, when we were also doing like a May mental health awareness. So welcome to you all. I'm glad. Welcome back. I said I wanted to have people back, who have been on previous seasons. I always like to reconnect with you all. I'm glad to see all of you healthy and well.
Right.
Current crisis or craziness or whatever we want to call it. So let me introduce everyone right quick. I'm going to start with Yvelette, since you are our virgin. I'm going to start with you. Author, writer, content creator. Well, I want to say wellness coach in a way. Would you think of yourself like that, Yvelette? Author, communication specialist, educator, but wellness specialist as well, I think of. When I think of you.
I do have a background in wellness. I think more mindset and mindfulness.
Okay.
I have a master's in holistic nutrition, but I want to give respect to those people who have really, really, really dug in and shared, I can tell you what to take for a sore throat and all that stuff, but here's the feedback. I would say more mindfulness and speaking to wellness as it relates to mindfulness.
Okay, right, because you're like, don't put the title on me. I'm a certified life coach, and it's like, you got certified the second. You just know how to talk well. Okay, so I'm just saying, it's a lot of calls out there.
I get it. You take a certificate and you're an expert.
Right. Right. I appreciate you clarifying. So you've appeared in Essence, Uptown, Heart and Soul, BET, Centric TV. You've worked with a lot of those. You editor of Source magazine. Shout out to the Source. That's when hip hop was real. Back when the Source is the Source still in print?
It is. It's quarterly, and things are like backed up now. So I think they're working on. I'm still in touch with a lot of people, but they're primarily digital and pushing out the digital platform as much as possible.
Okay,
that's where we're going.
Yeah, a lot of publications are. And so you've also worked on campaigns. You're author of 6 books.
Yeah.
On campaigns for Spike Lee, Oprah Winfrey. Have you met any of them, by the way?
I actually interviewed Spike. I've not met Oprah. When I did the PR for Snowfall, I didn't get a chance to go to the event actually because I was recovering from surgery. So I was working on it, but I couldn't physically be there because I wasn't mobile at the time. So no, the only person I would say is Spike Lee via conversation on the phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay.
And just to go back and clarify about the wellness, the purpose of my master's in holistic nutrition was to write about health and wellness.
Okay.
So yes, I do, but in a writing, like that was my beat in journalism, and most of my articles are about health and wellness. But to sit down to tell you, that's a little different.
Okay, I guess that's why I
gotta go
wellness coach.
Yeah.
Reading a lot of articles, and in my head, you were my wellness coach.
That's okay. I'll receive it maybe down the line.
Hey, you never know. Let's claim it. So welcome.
Thank you so much.
One of my media colleagues as well. So welcome, Yvelette. Welcome.
So much.
And then we're gonna go to the mommy on board, Mahogany Jones, baby, doing what a month now, right?
She's doing a month.
Oh wow!
Oh my gosh, Miss L is coming soon. So Mahogany Jones, y'all, is hip hop soul recording artist, TED X hip hop U.S. musical ambassador. We worked with the United Way. I was listening to Pure Movement earlier. Love that CD, by the way, in 2014. Your Pure Movement, love that. You perform for the DIA, pretty much all over the world. Because I was looking at one picture. What was that picture? You said it was
I've been to a few places. The last place that I was in was Uzbekistan. Oh no, not Uzbekistan. I'm sorry. It was Nepal. No, it wasn't Nepal. Okay.
She done been through it. It's okay. You got pregnancy brain. It's okay. It's okay. But Mahogany is the 4-time undefeated winner of BET's Freestyle Friday. So I don't know if you all remember Freestyle Friday when they used to come on. I don't know if that's what the crackling is. I don't know. Okay, is that on your end? I don't know if it's it seems like you kind of hear some feedback going on.
Are you getting feedback? Oh, I wonder if it's my computer. I'm going to move and see if that helps. Did that help?
Yep, it actually is.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute.
Okay.
Okay, and then, of course, you've done... Have you ever done Black Girls Rock?
How about that?
You've been on Black Women Rock, too, haven't you?
Yes, I've done Jessica's.
Yeah, Black Women Rock. So all of that, just extraordinary. So welcome to you, welcome back, Mahogany, and congrats on your baby girl.
I'm happy to be in good company.
You said what's kind of hard to hear.
Oh, I said I'm happy to be back, and I'm happy to be in good company.
Right,
I'm really
love
looking forward
it.
to the conversation.
All right. So next, I'm gonna go to one of my best friends ever. We gotta behave tonight because we in front of company. But one of my best.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yes, we try. You might have to rein me in. You know, I get a little loose sometimes, But one of my best friends, you all, Dr. La-Toya Gaines. She is a psychologist, educator, speaker, founder and president of Family Matters Counseling and Psychological Services. So, Toya, you specialize in family and marriage counseling, couples counseling, children.
So not couples counseling. Typically when I meet with couples, it's around the parenting issue. So I work with families, blended families, divorced families, and teens and kids 10 and up.
Okay. And then you specialize in speaking about the specific cultural issues that African Americans deal with when they're accessing and getting psychological services, and pretty much that experience of mental health from an African American perspective.
Yes.
Love it. So welcome to everyone.
Thank you.
Y'all know how I do. We unfiltered and unapologetic. So I want to thank you all for coming. And then David, last but not least, our only guy on the panel holding it down for the fellas, David McCullar, the founder and CEO of Inception, which is the first mental health gym that's located in Farmington Hills, Michigan. Mental wellness, is it brain mapping that's involved with it that you do? And give me a little bit.
We do a wide range of services. We use about 6 different technologies. Neurofeedback is one of the technologies. So we use them in a synergistic way to help with the brain and the body to reach a different level of homeostasis, because most of our issues are in the tissues in our body and it's neurophysiological. So we're rebranding mental health and making it more accessible to everybody to come in. You don't have to have a mental illness. We all have a mental health, and we're all on the spectrum of it. So that's what Inception is. It's just more of a place that you have a place you go for your physical health, physical gym. Well, there's a mental gym that addresses those things as well, the brain and the body.
Right. And now you are certified in brainwave optimization. So you are certified in that.
Yes.
So is that okay to that? Okay. So you also have a background in network engineering technology. So totally different from what you do now.
It's actually very similar.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, if you think about networks, think about a network, a computer network is just like the brain, just like the universe, just like, so it's all work kind of hand in hand. I went from troubleshooting computer networks to troubleshooting my own health, because that's how I got into it, by dealing with anxiety and panic attacks and looking at alternative routes to overcome those issues.
Okay. And so you've had thousands of clients then, David, since you started. You and your mom.
Yeah, 13 years. I started me and my dad.
People like Charlemagne, the God, have come through, and then you're starting one in California, right?
Well, we have a pop-up location out in California, and we also are we're aggressively going to be expanding with Charlemagne. And Charleston is our next location. We were supposed to be opening up something in July, but that's not going to happen now that everything that's happened.
Right. I'm glad to see that Charlemagne is using his platform, especially and I'm glad to see you both as Black men doing something about mental health and being advocates for it, because I think a lot of times those stigmas, if men are the voice and advocates for it, we can break down the stigmas that are still very heavy in the African American community. So I want to start by asking you all, as far as individually, how have you pivoted during the COVID crisis? David, you mentioned earlier that things are actually, even though Inception is not open, the building you're like, things are going better for me now than before then. So, but a lot of people have had to shift in a way and pivot how they do business and how we show up in the world. So you all talk about that, how individually, professionally, and personally, how you've done that during this time. And I'll start with you, Yvelette.
Okay. It's been interesting time, because I think when we heard about it, it was kind of like, oh, it's a swine flu, it's over there, it's not. And then all of a sudden the world stopped. And you're like, oh, there's time. And then it started to sink in, like, we're not going anywhere for a while. So what are we going to do? What are we really going to do with ourselves? And I think this was a time to be gentle with ourselves, really sit down and reflect on what we're doing. I think the word uncertainty it's such a broad word, because every day we're uncertain. The comfort is that we go up, we wake up, we go to our jobs, we do X, Y, and Z. But now we don't do that. So we have to find a new normal of an uncertainty and understand what that really means, because it is very uncertain. We don't know what's going on from day to day. Like last week, we learned Michigan was going to open up, and then Friday afternoon, it's like, oh, but you can stay at home. So what are we doing?
Right.
So as far as that, just being gentle with myself, you got to feel your feelings. Sleep patterns have been up and down. You have energy one day, the next day you can't process a lot. So it's just be gentle with yourself and understand a day is a day and take every moment as you can. And that's what I've been working on, because I'm usually like A type, go, go, go. This has to get done. It's okay if it doesn't. As far as the writing, I have a lot of clients that needed work on framing their language, so it's more sensitive to the time that we're in now. So that's been helpful. And then for myself as an author, my books are on health and wellness and be calm. And one thing as an educator in my classroom, I always wanted my children to be mindful. You know, just pause, breathe, meditate, or center, if you would, because that word can scare some people. They're not familiar. And so with the books, my latest book for adults was a book of writing prompts. And I'm like, well, what about the kids? You know, because they left school. They're not going back. There was a crayon left on the desk. There's some sneakers under, you know, in a locker.
Right.
You might have left a folder. And you're not going to come back to that, you know?
The locker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Months later, right.
Yeah. And it's
right. And it was just like,
yeah. And I had to process that. Like, am I going back to school? What is this going to look like? You know, the last time I saw my teacher, it was a Thursday. There might have been a field trip at one school. There could have been somebody's birthday party, and it was just gone.
Yeah.
We have to quickly morph into whatever this is, and nobody knew. And then even for the parents, like, how do we even figure this out? Like, it was a lot.
We've been figuring it out as we go.
Yeah.
So the books you have is C is for calm.
Yeah.
That's the A for affirmations is the book, the coloring book, right?
Coloring book. Yeah.
C for calm is the accompanying journal.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
It's a journal for kids.
And by the way, and I really like the questions that you're asking. I do have to sometimes remind him, like, I'm trying not to make it like a task though.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, I know it's something that he has to get in the habit of doing. But when I reminded him, he's not like, you know, he's like, he kind of wants to do it. So for my son, Toya knows he's yeah. He's definitely a left brain creative. You know, he's into writing and all of that. So for him, I was very relieved to find something that he could use, and I'm glad that you did think about the kids, because as parents, we do forget that they're going through this too. As well. So for you as a writer, though, hey Taya, that's my sister. As a writer, though, and that's something I've seen as a benefit for me as a writer, we already had to be inside when we're writing, right? So it's not that hard if you're a writer, but not being able to go to different events and stuff is what has changed. So, but for you said you have to help your clients possibly change some of the lingo on their websites or how they're sending out their correspondence. So, what are some of the things? What are some of the language that you find are because the message does matter, especially in these heightened times of sensitivity.
Just, you know, with the way newsletters are navigated. Everybody, you know, their store's still open. Everybody's purchasing, but we don't want to lead with that so much. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how are you? Working through what your niche is, giving tips, being of service before you ask for the buy. There's some newsletters that are just sales. It's like, calm that down, and I get it, because, you know, hey, Tarjay is open. We're buying. But there's a level of sensitivity that also needs to happen, because we don't know where people are. We don't know what triggers have come up. We just don't know. So, like, bottom line, let's see, it's industry based, it's language based, and then now slowly moving back into your new normal or the way you've conducted your language gently to get back into that flow. Because the last thing you want to do is seem tone deaf and insensitive.
Right.
Money has to be made, we get that. People have lost jobs, we also get that. But in the middle of March, we don't want to explain why we need to buy this certain project to get X result where it doesn't even matter right now because the industry is gone for at the moment. So let's scale back and see how you can be of service right now for the next 2, 3, 4 newsletters, and then bring in a selling point, or just pivot and find something else to create.
Right, which a lot of companies have. So I'm glad you said new normal. So for next, I'll go next to Mahogany. How have things changed for you as a performer during this time? And thank God I bless all the performers who have put stuff out during this time. Hallelujah, bless y'all.
So,
We will be lost without the performers. So how has things changed for you though?
I mean, this is the new normal. It's like, okay, getting dressed for Zoom performance, or I'm also an arts educator, and so my classes, and I was teaching hip hop songwriting to our beautiful, cute, our lovely Caucasian brothers and sisters, and that face to face is really important because it's not really their first ear. You know what I mean? So just the idea of like rhythm and us like really getting, hunkering down and figuring out those particulars face to face was everything, but we had to move that to a virtual platform. So that was really, it's challenging, but it's great because it's really offering other alternatives and other ways to kind of think about, the approach. And, it's kind of like all the things that would go into, it's like, okay, you get dressed, you have to travel, you have to get there. And it's like, nope, just make sure your setup at home is on point and get yourself together and figure out how to communicate in a way that still reaches your audience, and you're still able to kind of speak to the hearts of people. And you really got to make sure that you're good at what you do. It's so funny. I watched, this year, a particular concert, and all the flashing lights of being like in person and live, like this strips you down. Either you're good or you're not good. Either you can sing or you can't sing. Because here, you gonna
right.
You gonna hear
exactly. No synthesizer. No auto tune.
Right. There's nothing to hide behind. So it's been very vulnerable, and two, it's just been a different thing to adjust to. It's like, I remember what it's like to perform and to be nervous in front of a crowd of people. But once that human contact gives you the go ahead that it's like, okay, it's safe, it slides away, but it's a whole new vulnerability. It's a whole new nervous because you don't know what's happening for the person on the other end of their computer screen. And if it is like, contacting. So that's really been the biggest pivot, but it's been great. It's a new way to connect with broader communities of people.
Yeah,
being in different places at once has been great. So yeah.
Yeah, thank God for technology. Thank God for technology. Thank God for technology. Yeah. So for David, how was it? I'll come to you next, David. How? Go a little deeper when you were saying how have things changed for you, for your business, for Inception? Because I promise you, I was about to schedule my first service right before it shut down. That was going to be one of my birthday gifts to myself, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
I was going to schedule it for that last week of March, and then March 13th hit like bloop.
Right. Well, I mean, honestly, business from that standpoint is brick and mortar. That shut down. Kind of a relief for me, to be honest with you, because I've been doing what I've been doing for 13 years, and I haven't had an opportunity to really just settle down. As much as I use my own tools and services, I feel like I'm very balanced and calm. But this gave me another gear that I didn't even know existed. Because when you're in it, you don't have contrast. So, in the beginning, it was kind of like I went through this crazy 5 times a day. Really, I was saying this shit is crazy 5 times a day. So once I was able to move through that and really start to understand I'm okay. I'm okay. My family's okay.
Right.
And from there, I just shut everything off.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really shut off the world, really. And unless there was a real threat that came on my doorstep, I dealt with that. But for the most part, just got back to cooking and working out and walking around my neighborhood and just being very chill, very relaxed. But the conversation doesn't stop. I don't know how many Facebook Live, IG Lives, I've been on during this time. So that conversation continues to go. And also just working on our back end, we're developing way before this, we were already developing our educational platform. And also our practitioner coaching. So we're still developing those things. And then again, I'm okay, man. I'm relaxed. I'm feeling good. My family is healthy. And there's a huge gap between, you got these people who are like feeling really great. You got unemployment coming in. And I talked to a friend yesterday who's a FedEx driver, and the conversation, I just felt so bad for her because of how much work that she's doing, and no extra pay, and people are mad because she said I'm delivering pools to the hood now. Like people buying pools from Amazon, and so people are doing all of that, and she's just feeling this frustration of, you guys are all chilling and we're slaving away, and our lives are in danger to just help you get a pool, or something.
Right.
So
you can be comfortable. Yeah, that's why I call it first world problems, because we really are having first world problems.
Right.
We are fortunate. And I'm glad you kind of said, so for when you said it's a relief, I think it was a relief for a lot of people.
No, a lot of people. And that's what she told me. She said a lot of her friends are feeling the same way. Like, because again, if you're making more money from staying home doing nothing than going to work, like that's for me, that's a big deal. And when you're a business owner, people don't understand that I don't care what business you're in, mental health, whatever, you still have overhead, you have employees, you have all those things. And it's like, well, who really take care of me? Because I take care of a lot of other people who take care of me. So it gave me the opportunity to say
wellness.
And everybody called me after it happened. You got to get online. You have to say something. I said, no, I don't. I need to take care of me first. And it'll be a time where I can come out and say something. So I took about a good month before I even really said anything.
Right.
Because I'm trying to figure out what's going on for me. I'm trying to figure out what's going on for my family. I got to put my oxygen mask on first before I do that. So, yeah, I mean, and that's another thing she said too, that a lot of people saying, oh, I wish this can go on forever. Because again, when you slow down, we realize that our culture really has been sick.
Right.
We've been sick in doing this go.
All the time.
It's time to slow down and stop being human doings and human beings. That's our nature of relaxation, not to be on the go all the time,
Yeah.
But we're in this capitalistic society that conditions that's the middleman between you and your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
But if I want to feel better, well, what do I eat? And what do I watch? And what do I wear? Not what do I feel and how do I rebalance? How do I go inward to get into touch with that? And what do I do to take care of myself? So that was, again, that's another level for me. And it took me back to my childhood, when it was just like everything is taken care of. All I have to do is just survive, like eat food and, what I'm going to do for the day. So,
David, how are you with your clients though? How are you, is Inception providing any services like virtually, or you all are just like, look, we're on hiatus completely.
Yeah, I'm on shutdown. I did one thing for one of our groups was trauma release, but I just went on shutdown and said, hey, you know, everybody got to fend for themselves right now. I know that may sound bad to some people, but we got to take care of ourselves, our homes, you know, and you know, my parents, they're in that age group that, you know, susceptible to the COVID. And so, and
Yep.
then too, I'm not, you know, we're not getting paid from inception right now. Everything is closed. So, you know, I have no complaints right now, really. So I've been doing pretty well. My family has been doing well as well.
Okay, good. Okay. So Toya, I know you have your practice and celebrated your, what is it, 2-year anniversary?
4 years. 4 years.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Oh, the new office was last year. That's right. The new office.
Yes.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yep.
I knew the practice was longer, but the office. So you had to definitely pivot as far as how you provide therapy.
Yes.
And
we had to move. Yes, those two. So I had to move all my client services to telehealth. And it happened obviously really abruptly. But we started to have conversations with the other clinicians and to talk to the clients before we closed the office to kind of gauge people's willingness and interest to do telehealth. And I think that a lot of people just weren't, they didn't know much about it. And so educating our clients about it, having to identify HIPAA compliant platforms that we could use to provide the telehealth services also, and then quickly teach the clinicians how to use it, and also provide the clients with a short tutorial. So within a matter of less than a week, we had shifted to telehealth services. And initially we had a lot of clients who didn't want to participate in telehealth services. There was a lot of wondering about whether or not insurances would cover telehealth services and what that would look like. And I think initially I was less worried about it being reimbursed by insurances, but trying to provide people with their continued mental health. I figured insurances would eventually come around, but you know, you want to prevent people having that interruption in services. So that was a big deal. And since the stay home order has been in place for as long as it has, we've had the clients who initially didn't want to participate in telehealth services have returned because nobody anticipated. Right. Nobody had anticipated that, you know, this would last as long as it did. And I think over time, you know, people were really having a hard time. And then schools closed. And that was, you know, even more of a challenge for many of our clients who are parents, and even some of our teen and child clients having to figure out ways to get services to them as well. So that was a big challenge. And my speaking engagements, I had, you know, several speaking engagements that were scheduled that got canceled, and trying to find ways to get that information out to people. The information is still necessary, so finding ways to do that online and get that information out to people and still have a presence in doing so.
Right. And it's actually a lot of resources that are out there. I know Wayne State is offering free mental health services. And there's another organization where there's an urgent care. There's a mental health urgent care opening here in Detroit. That's offering free counseling. And what was it you were telling me the other night, that copays or something, that people don't realize that copays are waived or something? You were
so many insurance companies right now are actually reimbursing for telehealth services. So they're paying the providers to continue to provide mental health services, but they're also waiving copays so that people can still access mental health care and not have to pay their copay. And they're doing that for right now. That's going to be happening through the end of June. We don't know if it's going to last any longer than that, but that was a blessing to many people who, saw, changes in their income or was having some difficulty paying those copays, and insurance companies stepped up and absorbed the costs for their members.
They can afford it as high as those premiums are. I'm sure they can afford it. They can
Absolutely.
So what about people who don't have insurance though? What if I don't have insurance? I mean, I know we have these certain services. So Wayne State, for example, here has they're offering free counseling and services. So that's one resource. But what about people who don't have insurance? What are the options for them?
So I would say to those individuals, there are many of us providers who are either providing low cost or sliding scale fees or doing pro bono work. So, ask. That's number one. The other thing is, aside from Wayne State, you'd be surprised there are other colleges and universities that have clinics, and they are providing low cost or free services also, not just to their students, but to community members as well. So looking online to contact those places. I know Wayne State is one, but I can't think of off the top of my head. I should have made a little list of those, but those are definitely ways. And then there are lots of people right now who are doing good work in podcasts. Therapy for Black Girls has so many podcasts on various topics that will give you some strategies that you can use at home if you aren't able to access those resources.
Absolutely. So also, well, give us a couple, and on this podcast too, share a couple, because we got therapy on this. We got a 3 Black girls who give therapy on this. So
hello
on this podcast too, while we here.
Yes. So I think one of the best coping strategies that people do not take advantage of is exercise. Exercise is the number one thing that you can do. I don't care if it's a walk, a run, a dance, any of those things, but that is so easy for us to do. So that would be my number one suggestion as far as coping strategies. And then we often underestimate the use of a good support system. Mm-hmm. And I know people are going through their own individual things right now, but having a good support system that you can reach out to and just talk about, what you're experiencing, talk to other people, and have a safe space to share those experiences. And I think some of the other folks on the show have talked about the importance of, doing some form of breathing exercises, relaxation, meditation, getting into those things that you can do. There are apps that you can do, that are free. Insight Timer is one that I frequently use.
Insight.
It's called Insight Timer.
Insight Timer. And also Black Girls Therapy. I'm gonna put it in here too. Black Girls Therapy.
Yes. Therapy for Black Girls.
Therapy for Black girls. Okay. I'm gonna put it in the comments for Black girls. And Insight Timer.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Insight Timer. Okay. Okay.
So those are just. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was ready to say, I also recommend journaling. Journaling is another way of getting, those thoughts and feelings out if you're not ready to share them with anybody else, but journaling is something that you can do very easily. You can, have a journal with prompts in them. You can have a journal,
You can get your
Say that again.
journal. You can get Yvelette's journal. That's your don't
Yes.
you journal with the writing prompts. Yvelette, what is it called? Let me put it in the comments. Oh, you're on mute.
The one for kids is C is for calm. I actually have it right here.
Yep, C is for calm.
C is for calm. And the one for adults is Be Free, writing prompts from your mind, body, and soul.
All right, I love it.
So it's 3 sections.
Writing definitely. And Toya, I'm glad you mentioned as far as reaching out to your support system, because I think a lot of times, and women in particular, and maybe men do too, David, I don't know. When we're going through things, we tend to isolate ourselves. Especially, I think, I don't know if it's a Black thing or whatever, or the Black community, or just people in general tend to isolate themselves. And I saw a meme last week that said, I isolate myself when I go through things. My misery does not like company. So what do you guys think of that statement? How people isolate themselves? And hey, people, it's their business the way they choose to deal with things. But what do you think, like as a society, especially now, people are feeling isolated probably because of COVID. A lot of people live alone, they're single, but also some people maybe are not reaching out to their support, or some people don't have that support. So
don't have it.
That, as far as for those who do have it though, who sometimes isolate themselves, I want David to start with that, like how, what you've seen as far, what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I think that isolation is not always just it's not a conscious decision. I think so. Isolation comes from being in the freeze response. Freeze response is one of our brain patterns that we go into to protect us. So if there's a threat that is in front of us, we're either going to go into fight, flight, or freeze.
Right.
Or now we call it fawn. As well. So like when COVID first happened, I know I went into freeze. I can feel my body start to shut down. Your brain, your body is doing this on your behalf. It's not conscious participation. So your body will actually create more opiates, which is the same chemical that's in Vicodin. It's that numbing sensation. So then, you become disassociated, or you stop eating as much, or you just, again, you disconnect. So when we did brain mapping, with people years ago, we would see this, and you would see that people who were stuck in freeze felt a sense of disconnection from their loved ones into something even greater than themselves, which can be considered God or whatever spirituality that you're connected to. So the isolation is not just like, oh, I'm just going to isolate because I don't want to be around people. You don't even know that this is a instinctual thing that your body is doing to protect you, right? Because when there's a fight or flight situation that happens, that's because there's a threat or predator in front of you that you literally need to get away from or fight. So what happens when you can't fight? Your brain begins to shut you down and begins to numb you out, to disassociate you so you can survive the horrendous nature of that event. Abandonment situations are typically people who go into freeze. People who are cutters are typically people who are stuck in freeze pattern. So you're having a lot of that going on because it's a wide sense of helplessness that's happening, because who you fighting? You can't fight anybody, right? So I think that a lot of that is just people have to understand that a lot of the things that you're going through, and this is one of the biggest things that I talk about all the time, is not even your conscious participation. There's an entity that's controlling you, that was created and formed first, hardwired first, which is your brain. Like, that's why when people say, well, how does this kid remember this incident? You're too young to remember that. It's like, well, your brain was already developed.
Especially if you were traumatized.
And that's what I'm talking about.
It's imprinted.
So all these patterns are trauma patterns. So for us, in Inception, we're looking to help move people out of the trauma patterns and give them back the ability to have control over their functionality, because it's almost like your brain is hijacking you to protect you. And that's from your autonomic nervous system. So that's a kind of a different perspective for me, where it's just not like I'm just isolating because I just don't want to be around people. It's like, no, this is really what you're dealing with, neurophysiological. And that's why Dr. La-Toya said, but one of the best things you can do is exercise, right? Because now you're getting your body moving, you're getting that nervous system to try to kind of rebalance itself. And I would go further to say that as you're exercising, specifically outside, because in the 60s, they actually created synthetic shoes that disconnected us from the earth. We're actually supposed to walk barefooted on the earth.
Oh, now I have heard of that about grounding. How that
grounding or
earthing.
earthing.
On the grass and you stretch your toes. How that does help. I mean,
Right.
when we go outside, you usually feel better when you get that fresh air. You feel.
Right. Well, there's a guy by the name of Clint Ober. He's a engineer, electrician. So he rediscovered this. I mean, if you look in your household, every outlet has what's called a ground. Right, because you have to ground it when an electrician or electrical worker is going on a pole, they have to run a stake into the ground.
Right,
because if they don't, then that electricity hits, it's going to go into the ground, not into their bodies.
Right.
So right now, ladies, if you're in your home and you're not grounded, all the electrical outlets and the things that's in your home, where is it seeking to go into? A source, an open source. You become that open conduit source. So that's where the inflammation, we have a highest level of inflammation. Our nervous systems are amped up. So one of the easiest things you can do is walk barefooted, whether it's on concrete, because concrete is conductive as well, grass, or you can get yourself a grounding bracelet. So I sleep with a grounding sheet. So I'm grounded at least. If I sleep 10 hours a day, I'm grounded. If I'm doing things like this, I have my bracelet on or I have a mat. So this is like one of the biggest rediscoveries that we've ever come across.
Around barefoot at home, does that count?
You're not.
I need to be on the ground.
You have to be on the outside surface.
Okay, so I'll do
now some surfaces are grounded.
My driveway and stuff. Ben calls me country.
Yeah. So there's 20 peer-reviewed studies on grounding. So it's not just some woo-woo thing or hippies, it's actual science behind it. So we have to get reconnected back to the earth. And once we can do that, we can reconnect back to ourselves.
That's part. What is that bracelet you said you wear? What is
so this is a grounding. So this actually has a plug, it has a cable, and it runs right into the ground outlet of your home. So that's grounding. Now you're grounded. So you can test.
You have to sit in a certain space, or can you walk around with it?
Well, it's a long cable, so as long as you're connected to the cable.
Okay, and you have the business wearing that on your wrist.
Yep.
Okay, and
you'll see a noticeable difference in your sleep patterns and your level of anxiety and stress, because again, all the electrical outlets that's in your home, you're getting hit with that into your body.
Yeah, and all of the devices we have.
Yeah, all the devices.
I want to get Mahogany. What I want to, as far as what is your take on that isolation? As far as people, isolating, and how music contributes to getting people out of isolation. Because I truly believe music is therapy myself. It truly is for me.
Yeah, no, that's and that's so funny that you say that, because I was definitely going to say that. I think like the whole journaling piece is important. And I think having music that puts you in a good space is really important, and having some sort of tribe. I think about myself, and it's so funny, me and some of my friends, you're home, you're stuck, you don't feel like getting dressed, you don't want to look like nothing. But we decided we were going to do a Zoom call, and it was so refreshing just to connect, just that ability to just kind of like tap in. And it's very important, I think, especially for now, just some sort of level of normalcy. So I think both having a tribe, and it doesn't have to be a lot of people. I think that, these are very vulnerable times. Like you said, it's such a polarizing, it's very polarizing. It's people who are doing great. Like you said, that unemployment is coming in and they're great. And there's people who are either working really hard and stressed out, or people who do not have access to unemployment, and people who are not working, and people who are extremely nervous and extremely worried about the level of uncertainty, because now that level of uncertainty is traumatic, because
and then we're grieving. Right.
yeah, it's like, what's my well-being? Where's my next check gonna come from? And honestly, a lot of my industry, a lot of performance artists, whether you're an Erykah Badu or whether you're, just, an underground artist, it's a lot to have to deal with. So it's important. We need 1 or 2 people, 3 or 4, but we definitely need people who will be like, okay, I know what you're doing. I'm calling you. I'm checking on you, because it could be maddening.
Right. And I believe, because I get, as I was telling my girlfriend, I get, and shout out to everyone who's watching, Ben, Natasha, LaQuanda, Mama Cat House. Shout out to everyone watching. Lord, I lost my train of thought.
No, we get it. And like he said, it's our nature to kind of like hunker down and kind of go in and self-preserve, and we kind of like get in this isolation bubble. And we do need people who know us well enough to be like, okay, that's cool. You had your moment. You figured it out. I'm checking on you. Right.
Time to come out of it. Because I think a lot of times we, especially in this day and time, it's like, it's a catch-22, because if you're complaining or venting, people are like, oh, you're complaining, you're venting. But if you're not talking to people are like, oh, they're so private. You don't, and it's like, people, it's a tug of war. And I'm like what David said, I'm taking care of me. Sometimes you have to say, no, you will be all right just for that moment. I like Toya, where she says no is a complete sentence. And that's one of the things I love.
No.
Using that, because we find ourselves explaining things. Like the other day, I was explaining something to my daughter, and she was like, well, if you said no, that's it. You don't have to explain. I was like, you know what? You're right. I done got too used to explaining. And I think in this world, it's like people, especially when you are an expert, people are, I don't know, you might have to mute again, Mahogany, because there's still some feedback. It's like people feel like you have to address things. Like whenever something happens, it's like we're looking for the response from someone else to make us feel better about what's happening, to validate it, to make us feel better. And it's like we seek that out, that comfort. So talk about that. I'll talk about that, Toya, then we'll come to you, David, on your thoughts on that. That pressure. You hear me, Toya?
Say again. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to David. Would you ask me?
No, I'm going to David. But
I thought you were talking to David.
People who feel that pressure to respond and to perform, because at the beginning of this, it was a lot of those things about, if you're not figuring out your business plan, or if you're not working on your next, you're wasting time. And I agree to an extent. This has definitely been a time for me to, get my house together, get some things organized. But how do you resist that pressure at times? How do we?
Well, I think it goes back to what David was talking about sometimes we have to take care of ourselves before we can take care of other people. Before we can help other people, we have to be able to say, this is what I need to do for myself. And I know initially when this first started, I felt a lot of pressure to extend my office hours, to, take on more clients. And I had to have a moment where I said, you know what? First, I need to figure out my own reaction to what's happening, check in with my own family, how am I going to manage those changes in my household before I start talking about it, offering more appointment times, etc. And I think eventually what I got to was, you know what, my schedule is just fine the way it is. I'm going to help the people that I can help. I'm not going to overextend myself and burn myself out, because I still need to be able to take care of myself and, my children and my family. So I think it can be really hard to resist that urge, but I'm a firm believer that the people who really care about me, the people who really respect me, are going to accept and respect my boundary. And so when I say I can't, or, no, or I really don't have time for that, or not right now, people are able to receive that.
Right. Because sometimes I can, but sometimes I might not want to. Like I was saying the other night, sometimes I change my mind. Sometimes I might not want to do something. And now, if it's a commitment or responsibility that I have to follow through with, that's one thing. But if it's something that's not crucial, if I've changed my mind, if I don't want to do it, that should be okay. So, David, do you want to expound on that, David?
Yeah, and I love what Dr. La-Toya said about, and I was already on the tip of my tongue gonna say it, is like we have boundaryless cultures.
Right.
Like,
especially with social media now, huh?
Yeah, everybody they was coming at me, hey man, it's your time, your voice is supposed to be heard and things of that nature. And I said, that's not how I feel. That's not what I want to do.
Right.
Like, so I've learned, I've been around the world of healing, and I've always seen healers who are broken. Mm-hmm. And I refuse to be that. I'm not going to be the martyr for anybody. Mm-hmm. Like, I have to do the work on myself, and don't think that now, just because this crisis
snapping, like, yes.
Right. Now that this crisis hit, that all of a sudden now you need me, because the truth of the matter was you were already in crisis. This just took you further down to rock bottom. So I had already been doing the work for myself. So now when this crisis comes, guess what? Yes, I'm ready. It's going to affect me, but I'm good. I built up my resiliency because I've done the inner work on myself. So I'm not out of control. And a lot of people now, they're grasping for you. And it's like, even if you grasp for me, you still have to turn inward and do the work. I can't give you a magical, well, David, you're the mental health expert. Tell me what to do. Well, once I tell you, you're probably not going to do it anyway.
You already it anyway, right?
And then there's that.
Right.
So, the people who were seeking are still seeking, right? And that's what it is. So for me, it's like, have boundaries, like you said, Rocki. Like, I don't have to explain why I'm not doing something. And why isn't Inception open?
I would get more honorary. Like, no, I don't.
Right. No, I don't.
Not today.
Why isn't Inception open? Because we're not.
No, I'm not in the mood.
We're just not open.
I have people inboxing me like, why haven't you written in a while? Because I just haven't. I haven't felt it. Well, this should be the time you should be writing. No, I had to March, April. I had to take a break. Like, I had to take a break. Like, and I was debating on taking a break from the show, which actually I had taken a break from the show in January, but I was like, no, let me keep it moving. But March and April, I wasn't really writing as much. And there would be days where I'm like, I'm in my pajamas all day. Like, I'm good. I'm a work from home, do what I can. Thank God, you can do Zoom calls sometimes and you don't have to be on camera. Mm-hmm. But I want to ask about Yvelette. Compassion fatigue. This is something that Toya has spoken about. Have you ever felt, as in your work, and all of you, compassion fatigue like, I know pure Mahogany fans have reached out to you and gave you their stories about how your music touched them. Yvelette, David, Toya, you all speak on that compassion fatigue, and pretty much we understand compassion fatigue is like we get tired. We get worn out from giving and being empathetic to others. So Yvelette, start with give some feedback on that.
Sure. I seriously burnt out from compassion fatigue. And it, like David said, you have to have boundaries and you have to hold the space for that time and that person. And it's interesting because you come across a lot of people, and your energy that you give out and the energy that you feel with that person, you have to know when to kindly and firmly stop.
Yes.
To gather yourself back together, because you will burn out. And you can't pour from a half full cup or a full cup. Your cup has to be overflowing so you can help others.
Yeah.
Because if you pour from an empty cup, you're just going to wear yourself out. Mm-hmm. You can't give space and you can't give any part of yourself if you have nothing else for yourself to give, because we put so many people before us, and by the time we have to do what we have to do for it, we're too tired and you wonder why we're burnt out.
Right.
You wonder why things set in, like what, you know, you look up at 6 months, how come I haven't gotten anything done? Because we're pouring in. So for myself, I would say I have boundaries, I have limits, I have to set hours, because just one little question leads to a lot. And coaching people in writing, in the beginning writing aspect, is a lot more therapeutic than it is the process of writing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to your point, that's where the wellness and mindfulness sets in of what's the root of why you cannot put this on the page? Like, what's that past narrative?
Right.
And it opens up a whole, so I had to I'm like, how do I hold space for this? And just asking the right questions with people to understand where they are, so you know. Because sometimes if you're not energetically aligned, it'll hit you, and by the time you're done with a half-hour conversation, you need a whole nap, like a night sleep.
You wore me out.
Yeah, and it's like, I can't even think right now.
Right, but you are so right about energy. So right about energy. And I know I'm like an empath as well. So at times, certain people, I'm like, I can't talk to you right now, or I don't want to return your text because I already don't take the energy that I don't feel like you sucking from me right now. Or certain people who you want to absorb their energy because you know that's a positive energy.
Absolutely. So it's interesting because I'm a kind person. I think I come across as it's not very friendly sometimes, but it's the energy. I like suck it up, and it's like,
you already know something's not right. So
So
La-Toya is the first one who put me up on compassion fatigue. I know what it meant, but putting that term on it, because I know as a social worker and as a mother and wife, and friend, I have felt that at times where you're just like worn out from being, inspiring others and trying to, keep them going. So you said,
it's very selfless. That's a lot.
Right. Absolutely. Wow. Absolutely. So as a therapist, Toya, I know you get it, and I'm sure David has experienced it as well.
Yeah, I think what helps me is I'm always conscious of my boundaries and setting limits. Whether it's with my clients, with my schedule. Sometimes it's how I schedule my clients in a day, because there are some clients who really are a challenge to work with because of what they're going through. And you are exchanging that energy, and so being mindful of how I'm scheduling sometimes is something that I do. But I make sure that I take vacations. I take breaks throughout the day.
Therapy.
Right. I have group therapy. I reach out to my support system. And one other thing that I want to mention that I think really helps me with compassion fatigue is reaching out to other professionals so that I can debrief, because that having somebody who is also a professional who's doing that kind of work can be really validating to to share what you're going through or what you've been exposed to that day with your client work and how it's affecting you. So having a safe space to debrief with other professionals is something that that I find that's priceless in my work, and just being mindful to seek out that support.
Absolutely. So how about you, David? Have you ever experienced that, compassion fatigue?
Oh yeah. So there's another term that goes along with that called vicarious trauma. So when you keep hearing these stories over and over,
secondary trauma. Yep.
Yeah. So I for years,
secondary trauma.
Years I've heard some of the most horrendous stories, and I would go home and I would be like feeling sick, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, what's not realizing that I'm taking other people's stuff home with me.
Absolutely.
And when our pages started going viral last year, I was just very overwhelmed, because I mean, to this day,
the guy got on there. I've all types of clients coming at you from.
You should see my inbox. I can't even.
I'm sure
inbox
club had you going.
It's paragraphs of people's stories in my inbox.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't even do anything with that. you know, and I feel kind of bad sometimes about it because it's like they're calling, reaching out, but at the same time, I know that I can't engage with everybody because of that thing of energy, right? Like I can't give myself to everybody. So the best thing I can do is just use that platform, and hopefully you can find something in that what I put out versus you asking me, David, where's the prices on your website? Like, did you go to the website?
Right.
You know, did you, you know, and I'm sure we all get kind of hit with that thing. So it's like constant being bombarded, and social media now is like it's made things worse to where a point where I'll find myself talking to a friend through Instagram and through text message at the same time. Like, why are we on one
Me
platform?
too.
Why are we all over the place?
Yes, Jesus.
So just that spread of there's a lot of energy leakage from our attention going all different ways. And then if somebody texts you and you don't, it'll take me days to text you back now because I got email, 50 inboxes, you know, and telephone. I'm just trying to process through it. And I try to tell people, look, don't take offense to it. I'm not just neglecting you on purpose.
Right.
Some of it is neglect on purpose because
Right.
I never connected with you.
Yeah, but I'm
You
not
just
gonna
reached
be
out
rude
to
enough
me.
to say it to you. Sometimes
Right.
I am, but yeah.
So yeah, I've dealt with
But
that.
all of those platforms make people think that they have 24-hour access to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem. All of those platforms, and it makes people think that, oh, you know, David's accessible, and
Yeah.
so I'm gonna, you know, email him or text him or message him. And
Yeah.
no,
As a matter
I'm
of
not
fact,
sitting with my phone.
you know what that did remind me, because I was DMing and texting David, and I was inboxing and texting Yvelette. So, and that's sometimes with our sister circle, we'll have a chat in the inbox on Facebook and be texting each other. And sometimes don't let you miss a couple hours. You come back to a group text with 60 mixed group
Unread messages. Yes.
It just
I have to put my phone on do not disturb now when I go to sleep.
I do too.
Oh, that's a practice I do. You know what? And I do that when I'm writing as well, David, or just period. When I don't want to be disturbed. If I'm binge watching something, you know what? Something that I've come to enjoy during this time is just doing nothing and not feeling bad about it.
Right.
I feel like guilty about it. Like I'm gonna be lazy.
Yeah.
Like Yvelette said,
but quickly before you even say that, quickly, I don't even. But
it's not lazy.
Why do you say lazy? Like why do we condition it to
yes.
because doing nothing is lazy? You know,
I feel like if I'm not in motion, then I'm wasting time because I know I'm a big procrastinator, and I've felt
maybe you just overwhelmed. You're not procrastinating. Your brain again. Once that you go into stress mode, overwhelmed. You don't have the same resources. So going to do all these things is not because you're lazy or you're procrastinating. You simply don't have access to the energy right now to do that. And that's fine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And taking that downtime, allows you to recharge.
And we have to change the way we think about it. You're right. I'm glad you pointed that out.
And I've been taking naps since I was a kid. My family, we're nappers. I'm taking a nap. I'm gonna take a nap after this.
I was used to, but that's what I was saying before we started. I noticed my sleeping is better. Jack, I would wake up every 3 to 4 hours. I mean, when you're a mom, you never really, I don't think any mother ever sleeps through the night, even when your kids are older. But just also, my brain would be just in overload because as soon as I wake, it would be like a switch. I would click on like, ooh, maybe I can go down here and do this in the kitchen, or maybe I can send this email, or I didn't. Yeah, so I have to. Yeah, I have. Sometimes we do put that pressure on ourselves to be going, and we have to be the ones to release that pressure. Because
a friend of mine posted on Facebook like a month ago and was saying that it's a lot of people that are starting to say that they're experiencing like nightmares or really weird dreams. And my friend was asking me about that. I said, what's happening is you now have the time where your body is slowing down
You
and
are right, David. I've been
you're
dreaming
processing all of your stuff.
dreams that I remember. Yes.
Yeah. You couldn't process before because you were so elevated.
Yeah.
But now that you got to slow down, that's what meditation does. It slows you down to process. So now that this is a forced slowdown, we're in a virtual float tank where everything stimulus is reduced, and now your brain and your body has to process, and that's why people are going losing themselves, because it's like, oh man, I gotta get going, because they don't want to have to deal with the noise that's there. So I gotta stay busy. Gotta stay busy. So, but when I'm not busy, that voice, all those voices start to pop up. It's the same thing what happens when people get in the float tank at our place. They're like, oh, I had, it was scary in there. I said, well, yeah, you took you in there. It's only you in there. What's scary is in here.
Right.
That's what's scary. Not in a place that is literally nothing in there. It's you.
You're right though, because
that's interesting. Go ahead, Kel.
No, I'm just right quick going to say that you're right, because now I'm having dreams where I'm like, it's like a whole damn scenario that happened. It was a whole plot to it. Like the other night I had a dream. I mean, it was a whole. The dream was just so extensive. So you are exactly right, and I haven't dreamt like that in a long time. So you was gonna say what, Toya?
No, to speak to David's point, I'm noticing a lot of my clients with all this, with more free time, and they don't have access to the activities that they usually distract themselves with. They're having a really hard time sitting with their emotions. People are really struggling with, these feelings coming up, and it's because they're not out shopping, they're not out partying, they're not out, doing all the things that they normally do to distract themselves with how they feel. And so people are really, a lot of my clients are really learning to be still and to self-reflect and to sit with feelings and learn how to self-soothe. And that's a challenge, because we're so busy.
That's so true. That's so true. So what and hopefully Mahogany will be joining us back again. Hopefully you're okay, Mahogany. I know she's getting close to the end of her pregnancy, so I know probably getting comfortable with the challenge. So oh, you married?
Oh, there she is.
I saw you thinking, and I'm like, I know how it is when you're in that home stretch, honey.
No. I'm here. I put myself on the computer because the static was so crazy on my phone.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if you can join me on the computer, and then when it's time for me to do the song.
Yeah, let's do that now, though. Let's go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, Toya. Were you finished? What you were saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go into Black Girl Magic. Wait a minute. Let me tell you the line that stuck out to me, Mahogany. Let me get my notes. When you said the world wants to be baptized in the very beauty they're constantly criticizing.
Yeah. Wow.
And after the song, y'all, we're going to sit here and talk about all the madness that's been going on with being Black in America and how we are dealing with that, because that ain't stopped, of course, right? We're in the middle of a pandemic. People are dying. Like, it's just ridiculous. The brutality that's happening. And it's just, I'm numb to it. I'm really numb to it. I'm really numb to the stories. So thank God for artists like Mahogany. So when you're ready, give us your Black Girl Magic. Is this come off? Are you working on a new album, or you just come out here?
So what's really cool about this project is, I really relate to what David was speaking to about the whole idea of us being human doers and not really tapping into being human beings. And 2018 was definitely a human doing year for me. 2019, I met my husband, things slowed down. And then I came to 2020 and I was like, man, I haven't made music. What's going on? And my husband was like, oh yeah, no, that's not how that works. And so he is a producer and he does music publishing. And so he basically was like, yeah, you need to put out some music. And so this album that I'm going to do, or this Black Girl Magic song, he actually produced, and we worked on together, and his company put it out. And so it's just been great to work with him on this project. So I have an album coming out called Indigo, and it should be out late summer. And so this is from that. But just this whole time is crazy. Like, we pushed it really hard, like March and April. And then May, you know, beginning of May, things slowed down. But it's all this craziness started to happen. It's like, man, what better time to celebrate being who we are, and to know that it's like, no, we need to celebrate ourselves because we're constantly attacked. We're constantly assassinated. And it's just a lot being Black, you know, and I know that sounds like cliche, but it's true.
It's is. Like, man, like, it's exhausting. You know, it is exhausting. Yes. Sometimes, and now here's the thing, it spans for me. At moments, it's exhilarating because I love being a Black woman, our heritage, our legacy. I told my daughter we are part of an elite group. We are just the bomb. Then other days, I'm like feeling exhausted. Like, just
a lot, you know? Yeah. It's like, you know, you don't even know. I mean, just to be bombarded in such a short amount of time. And I mean, I think this really does speak to the short fuse in regards to mental health and how people are not really coping well with the situation, because it just seems like a rash. I mean, literally in like less than 30 days for Breonna Taylor, for Aubrey, and then this situation to happen back to back to back to back. It's like, what is going on for people? You know, like, it's too much.
I don't even know how to process it. I'm just numb. It's all of this has really just been numbing, because one of my good friends died on my birthday, then grandma passed in April, and then we still in the crisis. It's just been numbing, and then all of this stuff. I'm like, it's like that has not slowed down though, as far as the racial inequalities. It's just like this is as usual. So
it's ridiculous.
So let's get into the songs, Mahogany.
Okay.
And then afterwards, I want to come back and get you all's thoughts on the current state of what's happening and how we can somehow take care of ourselves during this madness. How you know, because we're getting inundated on social media and in the news every day with stories.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So this is my latest single, Black Girl Magic, and I'm just so proud to celebrate Black women and Black girls, and just how beautiful we are as a people. It's available on all streaming platforms, and so with no further ado. Uh-oh. What occurred? Give me 1 second. Technical difficulties. I don't know why we want to cut up now. Don't cut up now. Okay. Let's see. What happened? See? All of this. What's going on? Give me 1 second. I don't know.
You know what happens.
That's trash. I want to do it with the music. I don't want to do it a cappella. What's happening?
Maybe you need to shut down and.
Let me see. Let me go back.
Okay, I'll give you a moment to work on that, and then we'll kind of.
It's here. It's good.
Oh, okay.
That's it, right. Watch me glimmer as a shimmer in the summer. It's cold with the shade butter, keep the water alkaline with salami cucumber. Clock moving forward, but I keep looking younger. Know you wonder what it is that's under my skin. Know you wonder what it is that I swim in liquid linen. Get the shipment. It's a special equipment I'm using. Organic juices and berries infused with soul music. I say it's so Black innocent. Redefine the record. My birth certificate. Go ahead, get into it. Intricate and infinite. More than the difference. No, it says accident. Do you need more evidence? That was also excellent. So much excellence. I say it's Black Girl Magic. Oh my God, I know you gotta have it. It's Black Girl Magic. Oh my God, I know you wanna have it. It's Black Girl Magic. Oh my God, I know you wanna have it. It's Black Girl Magic. Magic covered the globe just like Verizon disguising. varying shades and all sizes. Beauty captivated, cancer is it surprising? My beauty captivated, cancer is it surprising? World wants to be baptizing. The same beauty that is constantly criticizing. That dream the boardroom, certified that shit. While I'm working full time, holding down the night shit. Let her way we talk slick. Let her way we represent our people with that bracelets. Single mamas holding down the Jesus. God's gift wherever we walk. For the earth ship, sky split. Wherever we walk, to be uplift. Oh, I'm so sorry.
I know your breath. I know. That's okay. We got it.
Pushing on this diaphragm.
That's all right.
1 second. Hold on. Okay. I'm going to do this last verse a cappella. Forgive me. This little girl is like,
girl, she ready. She a queen like her mama. She ready to bust out of there.
I was like, girl, mommy's running out of breath. Okay, here we
That's
go.
Okay. Can you send me the MP3 so we can play it?
No, we gonna run it back one more time so we can hear it nice and clear and full. Magic covered the globe just like Verizon, disguising varying shades and all sizes. Beauty captivated king, so is it surprising? The world wants to be baptizing the same beauty that is constantly criticizing. From bedroom to boardroom, certified bad chick. While I was working full time, holding down the night shift. Little way we talk slick, little way we represent our people with that race fist. Single mamas holding down the dean's list, God's gift. Wherever we walk through the earth shift, sky split. Conspire they uplift. Conspire they uplift. Try to steal our swag and our bag, but we don't trip. Focus on these round chips, blue strips, and blue chips. Being self-aware, self-care, home ownership. Overcoming trauma, killing drama, and our hardships. Trying to keep our edges, keep it cool, and keep it conscious. With a splash of ratchet if they come in with that nonsense. Because it's Black Girl Magic.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I know you want to have it. It's Black Girl Magic. Whew, okay. Reggie.
Breathe, boo.
Yes,
I love it.
It's available on all streaming outlets, and I'm really excited to just share it and for us to have an anthem that just celebrates us and allows us to feel good in just a time where it seems as if the world is beating down on us.
Mm-hmm. And you have a Black Girl Magic Challenge, don't you? Don't you have like some ladies who
Yes. So basically, it was so cool. People were doing TikToks, or people are doing different things like sharing about their businesses and sending it to me, and then I'm putting the music behind it. So we've had people who are making masks, and they've played it. We've had doctors share, their Black Girl Magic and what is making them so awesome during this time of COVID, and have their essential workers. We've had dancers just dance to the song, girls and adults alike. So it's been so beautiful. And we've also just had people explaining their own words what to them Black Girl Magic is. So the challenge has been really fun.
I love it. So it's appropriate. We have to always constantly have our anthems to keep us motivated and not to absorb what the mainstream wants us to as far as the perspective of who we are. So let me shift a little bit. We, of course, have to address. I want to get you all thoughts on, and I want to start with David. I'm going to start with David as a black man. Because we know what it's like to be a Black woman and to be a Black person. Yeah. But and I want to say shout out to Hodge Flemings of Brand Camp. Yeah, you know Hodge?
I know Hodge.
Yes, yeah. So he had a live video today where he was talking about life as a Black man. And he was talking about how he purposely has to do certain things, move in a certain way when he, even physically, like if he goes into a parking garage and he's there by himself with a woman, he's like, I have to be mindful. He's like, no matter the race, I have to be mindful of where I am spatially in reference to her to make sure I'm not making her feel in danger. And just as a Black person, how we have to, we know we switch, we switch sometimes. We put on masks, we speak a certain way when we're in front of a certain audience. We struggle with the respectability politics of how we have to behave in certain areas. So I want to ask David, for you as a Black man sitting at home or whatever, when you walk, just what is it like for you to know you all are pretty much an endangered species.
To be honest with you, I don't live in Pollyanna land. I understand that these are truths to many people, but I just don't live my life that way. I don't try to, I don't, I don't want to look through that lens where I'm always on guard. You know, yes, I'm mindful. Absolutely. Like for instance, um, with my own company, before I had Inception, I had a smaller version of it called Neuro Fitness Center. And when I used to have women come in and I was by myself, I would call my mom and have her come in there with me.
Right.
Because I just didn't,
you wanted to make sure it wasn't
I don't want
misunderstanding.
If it was gonna be he say, she say, I was gonna be on the wrong end of that stick.
Right. Yep.
Right. So
and that's what Hodge was saying too. He doesn't want to get into that situation. And
right. So I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
I did not watch that video of the gentleman. I did not.
The latest video, we should say, huh? The latest, because there's so many videos.
In any of it, and I don't watch slave movies anymore because it's like this, like the brain can't tell the difference between what's real and what's fake. So this is why when we talk about compassion fatigue or vicarious traumas, because you're witnessing it and your brain witnessing it as you.
Yeah.
That's you on that ground. So I understand it's happening, but my best work won't come from me being outraged. My best work is going to come from me taking action.
Yeah.
And the best way I can take action is to continually uplift first me. I have to be in the best space I can be in and help my other brothers and sisters to get there too. And my thought process is we always talk about a system that's out there. This system, it wasn't built for us and all this. So my question to us collectively is, and I was talking to someone last week, and I'll even expose this to you, just a thought process I had. But my thought was, we're complaining about a system, but where's our system? We have a system pushing against us. Where is our collective system to push back? We don't have a collective system. We're like all over the place.
Right, we have pockets of them. We have pockets of we have little,
So I talked to some very important people in our community, and I had this idea, and I said, why don't we create our own country within the country? They said, what do you mean by that? I'm not talking about physical land that we go create a country and let's all move there. There's an invisible network that we already know as Black people. We live it. We police each other by it. Hey, you said that, you ain't a part of the culture, right? Like, we do that. But we need our own invisible type of Wakanda that all of us connect to, right, that all of us are systemized with, and technology allows us to do this now. Mm-hmm. Akon is creating a country over a city over in Africa. He's created his own currency through a crypto coin. So I talked to someone, I talked to a lawyer who I know works with in the crypto industry. I said, how can we create our own currency? Because of the foundation of this has to be finances.
Yeah.
Because I'm tired of talking to the narcissism. But narcissists, please help me. Would you stop doing this to me?
Right.
Pull our money out of the system. You have no choice but to hear us then. We have $9 trillion in spending. But yet our money doesn't even circulate once through our own community. Mm-hmm. So my thing is
Killer Mike. I don't know if you saw his documentary, Killer Mike.
Yeah,
he had on Netflix, and what you said, you just reminded me. I was just saying this the other night, and I don't know if you remember, Toya. I was talking to my one girlfriend. She does like these intricate bling designs. I mean, just very intricate, and she's very meticulous with it. And then we have another girlfriend who's a real estate, who's into real estate. Another girlfriend in logistics. Another girlfriend, Toya, does therapy. One of our girlfriends sings. I'm like, we have what we need within our network,
our community. Yes, we just got to pull it together.
Whenever I need something, I am looking for a Black-owned business to provide that. Like I still do my Amazon shopping. I'm not gonna lie, but a lot of times I will purposely try to find a Black-owned business to provide a service or product. And you're reminding me too of, I wrote a press release for a guy who he wrote a book called Reparations, the Black State of America. And he talks about moving and taking over a certain area geographically where we have our own governor of the state, our own currency, and we are creating our own infrastructure.
Well, we tried that and they bombed us. So that's why I say, yes, that's why I say it has to be an invisible network. You know, Wakanda was invisible to real Wakanda, Wakanda, right? Like you have to have pull down their lip, like you a part of this, right? Like that may seem extreme, but it's a real thought process, and we have the technology to do it. The Nation of Islam is already a country within this country. The difference is, you know why Black people didn't follow that? Because most of us were Christian and we didn't want to, you know, it's like, oh, Islam. And it's like, but no, Farrakhan, you right on a lot of stuff.
He is. And I think we let our biases and xenophobia get in the way too, because we were ignorant
right
to Islam as a faith. And that I think that contributes to a lot of our fear and why we're not moving. I think the Black community is like in a freeze.
No, we are. Yeah.
Because especially living in America, you got to make money. Because you're a Black-owned business. You want to apply for that loan or that grant. You have to go through some government entity to do it. So it's like, So let me get you all started. So you don't even watch the videos, and I'm glad. You don't, because what am I exactly? I can't even watch the video. Just like the one where the officer was beating up the 11-year-old kid. I'm like, I can't even watch this. I can't even.
The question is for me is, with that content, what am I looking to get out of it?
Right. Yeah.
I'm already outraged. I don't need no more anger on top of me, Rocki.
Right. That's why sometimes like I don't even want to, because people inbox me like, did you see this? Nope, I haven't even watched it yet. But then sometimes I have to look so I can be informed to give an informed feedback on it. But it's like, no, I don't even want to see that because I'm already pissed off.
Yeah.
I mean, like James Baldwin said, to be a Negro in this country, you in a constant state of rage.
So back to that question about how is it being a Black man, and probably the same thing as being a Black woman is like Black men, we have to we stuff down our anger. Like we're like literally. I watch my dad, and I have my dad's anger because he's a Black man, and and so we all pick that up from our fathers, that anger. Yeah. And I talk to all my other Black male friends, and I know we all have that kind of that anger in us. Yeah. Now, why you think when sports we gonna kill you in sports? we gonna give it to you.
Y'all be serious about it. And I'm gonna go back to the comment my husband was saying here, how Black men have to really focus on constructive things to do. And I think that's part of why he's an artist, because that's a constructive thing, something that he found when he was younger, surrounded by growing up in the hood.
Yeah.
So he says Black men have to focus on constructive outlets during these times. Many Black men do mind their business and still get harassed, but schoolwork, business ventures need to be positive outlets for Black men. And so I think that's really important that we do seek those things, that positivity, because we're inundated with so much. So let me get Yvelette and Toya and Mahogany. Y'all chime in on as far as the current state at mental health. Like, I know you have many angry Black men probably, and here's the thing, men who are reluctant to come to therapy too.
I got some men in therapy. I got some men in therapy.
Women too.
I mean, absolutely. for myself, I don't watch those videos. And to be honest, this week I have not really been on social media other than to promote my appearance here tonight, because I just can't. I just can't. My son got up this morning and went for a run, and he got up super early, around 7 o'clock this morning. He went for a run around the neighborhood, and I asked him, what was he doing up so early? And he said, I couldn't sleep. And I said, well, what's going on? And he said, just this stuff that's going on again, the most recent killing. And I said, you want to talk about it? And he said, no, not right now, but that broke my heart.
Yeah.
That, clearly it's affecting him, is disturbing his sleep. And we've talked about it, and usually he doesn't watch those videos, so I don't know if he watched it. I try not to probe him too much at that time, but yeah, I don't watch it. It is very traumatizing, and there's no point in watching it. And it makes me angry. At times I feel really powerless.
Yes.
And I don't want to be numb. I don't want to be numb. And I think, the constant watching it, sharing it. And then I think about the families of the people that are in those videos,
right,
and what that would be like for me,
right,
to just turn on the TV or to get on social media and to just, without warning, be confronted with that video on a consistent basis. I just can't.
Ahmaud Arbery's mom says she hasn't watched that video.
I don't blame her. Who watches the murder? Who watches the murder of their child or their loved one? Who does that? But it's interesting because I have a client, and we were talking about getting exercise and, getting outside and getting some exercise. And one of the things this individual talked about was some worry about running in the neighborhood.
Right.
And then Ahmaud Arbery happened. And
yeah, did you think that was this morning? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, talking to my client in therapy about it was like, on the one hand, this initially felt like an irrational fear, and I'm, trying to decide whether or not, this is a real fear. And then this happened, and so now I know it is a real fear. It is a real concern.
Now
and how do I navigate that?
Yes.
Right. And how do I navigate that?
The normal things in life. How do you just navigate? If I want to go to the park, I already got to worry about the virus or be concerned or aware of that. But now I have to be concerned with if I'm exercising, and it's just like living while Black. Sometimes it's just like, sometimes we just exist in minding our own business. And like the man in the park who he bird watching.
Right.
And I'm just simply asking you to put a leash on your dog, which is a law. So I'm not being a picky asshole. You're supposed to have your dog on a leash, because you're in the bird sanctuary part of the park. So you should definitely have your dog on a leash so it's not scaring the birds or whatever. But
and this is why I think, when people of color and Black folk go to therapy, they tend to want to sit across from somebody who is culturally similar to them, not just somebody who has, been trained to be culturally competent and aware, but oftentimes, because these are the discussions that you have. I'm living while Black. I'm working in a predominantly white space, and I'm the only one, or I'm one of 3 people of color who work in this office, and I have to navigate these politics in the office, and having a safe space to be able to talk about that. And so I do think that, while it is nice to have clinicians who are not Black or people of color to be culturally trained and aware, because that is important, I also think that, it's really important for Black folk to be able to reach out to people who look like them, to be able to have a safe space to talk about stuff like this, like to talk about living while Black, working while Black, you know.
And just in certain spaces, I feel like because there was this issue what I had with my son's teacher last year. I felt like she was a white woman. I felt like she did care about the students, but even if you go on to diversity training and cultural awareness training, there's still, for me, in certain aspects, in certain areas of life, we're only going to understand each other because we understand each other and know what it's like to be Black in America. That's something. It's just certain things that I appreciate the white allies, but it's just certain things you're not going to understand if you have not lived as a Black person. So, Yvelette, did you want to chime in on that? As Black media, we know as well the issues that we address, that we have to deal with as Black media. We know we get passed up at the red carpets. You know, it's harder for us to get into some of the round tables. You know, we got to jump through 11 hoops. And we have to be mindful of the narrative that we're putting out there too, because we are, you want to chime in on it?
Yeah, there's a few things. So with the videos, as a media professional, we have to be informed and watch it. I limit myself. And then you get on social media, that's all you see.
Yeah.
So that's in your subconscious mind. I don't have children. I have a nephew, and I've had many students that were boys. And my nephew's going to be tall. He's like 6 and above my belly button. So I'm like, if he just wants to go for a run in a hoodie on a cool, you know, October day, talk about uncertainty. Is he going to make it back home? And that's very hard for me to like swallow and think about, because there's also the adultification of Black males. They're a threat at 13 if they're taller than, because they look like men, and people are not conscious enough to look in their face to know that they're children. And you can see it in their eyes that they're still babies. So that is very concerning. And I think another thing that's concerning is the way the media just continues to replay this, like Black males or Black females or women, excuse me, that have had instances with the police. We know that our Caucasian counterparts don't as much, but it's almost like for the world to see consistently over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing as much because we probably have similar instances of brutality, but it's not publicized. And I don't think that's severe. Probably it's probably not as severe. To the brutality is probably not as severe. But you're right, it's like a story. We're constantly, those stories, they're like evergreen. They're just constantly there. We're inundated with them.
Absolutely. And I think that on top of COVID, it's just too much. You know, you just, can we catch our breath? Can we catch a break?
Right.
And we just have to mobilize and come together. In the 60s, the bus boycott, that was powerful. We still have the power within us. We just have to figure out how to come together to make this work, to create the change, you know? And it's just a lot to process and think about. So yeah, you know, it's been a heavy week, and I think just consistently, especially with the kids, having open communication.
Yeah.
Because there's fear in there too. Like, can I just go for a walk? Can I walk my dog? Can I ask somebody to put a leash on Biscuit? That's cute to you, but I don't know Biscuit.
Right.
So can you get your dog, you know?
Right. No, and not, even if you upset, you're purposely going to call and say, I'm saying an African-American man is threatening me and my dog. Like, she purposely said that. And you know the implications of that. And I think that's part of what also fuels our anger, because now she's coming back and apologizing. And a lot of people are like, fuck you, girl. We don't care. You can keep it.
Keep it.
No one even cares. No one cares about the apology now. And she's like, my life is ruined. And we are like, we do not care. Because you know what that could have possibly done. It's
You're still breathing, though. Your life is not ruined. You're still breathing.
Exactly.
Exactly. Right. Right. So it is exhausting. And Joycelyn says, not having to explain our experiences as a Black person. Sometimes I feel like, and I appreciate I have a coworker we will have, she's a white woman, and we will have in-depth conversations about race and, just the different dynamics of that. And sometimes though, and there's some people say like, we shouldn't have to educate white people on what it's like. We shouldn't have to educate them. Sometimes it gets exhausting having to educate them on what it's like to be Black. What do we need you to do? How we need you to help? So what are you all thoughts on that? Because I do believe like in order for there to be some effective change, there has to be a white majority that is helping and being an ally as well. Because we can't do it alone. They have to be part of the change in those systems. They have to be. So what are you all's thoughts on that?
I think that's interesting because a friend of mine who happens to be white called me today, and we had a conversation. And what she said to me is, I don't know what to do, and I want to do something. And I think I get what you're saying about this. I don't want to be the one to always have to tell other folks what to do. But I also think for some of our white allies who are willing and don't know what to do, they need somebody to talk to.
Right.
Who else?
Right.
What are they supposed to do if and so I think that there's some quandary in that.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And so we had a discussion.
I feel like we shouldn't have the responsibility to do it, because I definitely feel like we have to educate them if we're going to work as a team and allies to smash or quell racism.
Yeah.
There has to be some education. But I think that sometimes we feel like we have to be the ones accommodating. We have to be the ones forgiving and saying sorry. We have to be the ones explaining.
Right.
So
Right.
I appreciate those, like your friend and like my coworker Michelle, who actually asked, "What can I do? What can I do?" And that's part of what I emailed Hodge earlier and said, I want to bring you on my show so we can talk about some actionable plan. Like we do all of this talking on social media. My thing is,
thank you
for some plans.
Let's do something.
My one friend, we were talking last week, and we're going back and forth about the Biden comment. And I'm like, look, I'm tired of going back and forth. Why don't you come on the show so we can talk about? Why don't we can have a conversation besides typing back and forth, and come up with an actionable plan on what we can do, some platform that we can do, like David was suggesting. I'm with you, David, like keeping our money circulating. And then that's what people really don't realize, like being purposeful about making our own instead of asking somebody else to accept us into theirs.
I think that I look at a lot of things in a very unconventional, conventional way. We're trying to pull people out of the matrix, Rocki. That's what we're trying to do. That's not my responsibility to pull you out of the matrix.
Dang.
Okay. So, okay.
I mean, how do I do that? Have you ever seen someone in a narcissistic relationship and you're trying to tell the narcissist, you're being bad to me, could you stop being bad to me? Can we look at, think about this. You use babies, Black babies, as alligator bait. You have sex breeding, camps for Black people. You have lynchings.
Right.
Do we understand the energy that these people have come from, and that they're really not even a generation from that? So for me, it's like I'm tired of this. I'm not gonna educate you. Let's build ourselves up and push back. But I don't mean push back in the sense of like we're going to war like that. I mean we can't stop. We gotta stop complaining about what we tolerate. We're tolerating this, and so to me, it's like. I don't want to march. I want to move and get people power, positions of power. Where's our banks? Where's our banks?
I mean, and the thing is that there actually are
I mean, we do have some, but they're not major like Bank of America.
Yeah.
Right, and it's up to us to make them like that.
To make them, yeah.
Not some outside entity. And that's, I think, for doing the work for myself. Like, we had to stop looking for stuff outside of us to help us.
Mm-hmm.
How do we help? How do we help ourselves? That's great if we have some people on the outside helping us. You know, they want to do that. But I'm not trying to deprogram or decondition the masses of white supremacy. That right there is insanity. You're not going to be able to do that. So
that's a constant thing because it's ingrained in them.
Think about me in Inception, where the white system says you need to go do these traditional things to get better, and I say, damn that. I'm going to do my own thing and build my own system. I keep going back to Akon and building that. We got to dream bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Our dreams are so small. Like for us as Black people, like, oh, I opened a barbecue shop. I open, like, can we elevate? Where's our scientists?
But I want to speak to that, David, real quick if I can, because I think a lot of that is contingent on us being resources for us. And I feel like a lot of times,
you said what? A lot of that is focused on us being what?
It's contingent on us being resources for us.
Resources for us.
Is that we are unwilling to extend the knowledge branch. We are unwilling to provide internships. We are unwilling to lend bridges. You know, the thing that causes a lot of people, of other people of color, when you think about the Jews, when you think about different races, is that they understand what it is to give somebody else a come up. You know what I mean? It's like the fact that we have so many African Americans who, you know, Kanye West is a billionaire. You know, we have so many people, even outside of entertainment, who have, you know, a mass amount of money, which does equate to power. But it's like the fact that we're not figuring out what it's like to come together to really build institutions, because that's what we need. Rockefeller, an institution.
Right.
You know, Ford, an institution. So that's where we are missing the disconnect. I'm really, you know, when we talk about a plan and where things connect, I really applaud Charlamagne for what he did, because even it's like it's got to be spooks that sit by the door, and it's got to be us on the outside building the infrastructure so that they kind of are coinciding and working together. So, you know, we stuck with Biden, but Charlamagne made it to where as our voice was like, look, we are gonna need some Black representation. We are gonna need you to go ahead and give us that Black female vice president. We're gonna need that. We're gonna need that.
This is my thing, Mahogany. If he does that, are you just doing that just to pacify us though, or do you really?
But you know what? We have to figure out how we're gonna take that, because again, unfortunately, it is the lesser of two evils. You know what I mean? And it's I saw I don't know if you know Kalima Lachmama Johnson, but she said the statement, you know, she's like, I don't care if Biden said, we're gay to all my Detroit players. I'm still gonna vote for him. And it's
right. I don't care. There would not be no way. I would vote for Trump.
Right. No.
There's no way.
There's no way. So, and we just have to figure out how to be strategic. And I love the philosophy that's being spoken in regards to, okay, we cannot be emotional, we cannot be enraged, we have to be strategic, and we have to plan. And some of that planning is going to be building infrastructure that is outside of the current infrastructure. But until that infrastructure is set up, we still got to function. So we have to figure out how to function in something. And those two kind of have to work together until we can completely edge out. It's like when you're going to be an entrepreneur. It's like, okay, you want to be an entrepreneur, that sounds great. But guess what? You better still have a job before you can go ahead and venture out. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's kind of how we have to work.
That balance,
yeah.
And you know, I raised about $150,000 on crowdfunding, which is not a lot of money. But I did it on a sister's platform called By the Block, And she has businesses that can put their business on there, and then
what is that? BUY the block?
BUY. Yep.
Buy the block.
So it's another guy on there who's putting real estate up there, and we're coming together and investing into each other.
That's good.
Forget the stars.
That's good. That's
Look,
good.
Jason, my brother Jason Wilson.
Yeah.
My brother Jason Wilson has his thing, The Cave.
Yeah.
And he knows all these black stars.
Shout out to Jason Wilson.
Right.
Yeah.
So he knows all these black stars. And I'm like, bro, how you don't still have what you need, but you know these multimillionaires?
Yeah.
That's because they incongruent with what they doing.
Yeah.
You talking about this, but you're not helping the brother.
You're not helping. Mm-hmm.
And so Charlemagne, for me, he just texted me. I just talked to him. Like, regardless of what anybody can say about him, brother ain't come in asking me for nothing. Didn't come in ego checking. Didn't come in doing none of that. He's like, bro, let's build.
Yeah.
And we're starting to do that. So we can move away from the conversation of, we don't support people. Like, shit, we support people. Let's start saying that. We support each other. We support each other, We do support each other.
I don't like to push that narrative either. I know we still have that crabs in the barrel mentality. And for me, I think that's just historically dating back to how we were separated at, slavery. All
but
that.
it's changing drastically.
But I
agree.
I feel like for me, if you're not going to help me, I'm going to find someone who will. There's definitely someone else who's willing to. If you want to be a crab who's pulling me down in the barrel, there's another one who will allow me to get on their back to get to the top.
That's good.
So, and that's something definitely I agree with, David, that it is a reality. We can't sugarcoat it. That does happen where there are people who want to be stingy with information or they just, doing it for show. Or whatever. There are also people out here who are willing to help, who are willing to mobilize, who are willing to collaborate. And that's why I said everything we need is within our network. If you need a photographer, I have about 8 of them. If you need a videographer, if you need a therapist, if you need a performance artist, if you need a therapist, a writer, if you need a doctor, a chiropractor, all of these things, we know people who can provide all of these services, quality services too.
Yeah, and I think that we need to start building things outside of what we're used to building. That's why I said we can't just keep building barbershops and things of that nature. Like, where is the cell phone company? And a guy named Freddie Figures has created his own cell phone device, and young Jeezy has been supportive of him. It's like, so do we migrate from Apple Android, and look, we're all on social media. Well, where's our platform?
Right.
But our platform can't be Black Planet. We can't be Black Planet, right? and everything we create don't have to have the word soul in it. Right. Like, we can create stuff. It doesn't, like Fox Soul now has a network, and it's like Fox Soul.
Cut it out.
Okay, so David, this goes to it. We got to wrap it up. This kind of reminds me of how all of our kids don't have to be rappers or basketball players.
Right.
They don't all. That is something that my son is. He said he wants to do football. He says he wants to do basketball. Okay, and I've told him, even if you don't do those sports, that's fine. Being an athlete is not what has to define you. If you want to do something artistic, creative, science, or whatever, you can. I even have I purposely put him into karate, even though he didn't really like it. But, the point was to introduce you something more than just being a basketball player.
Right.
So I definitely, I appreciate you all for being part of the conversation. We got to wrap it on up right quick. You all give your social media. Good luck on the baby, Mahogany. Well into this crazy world, but she's going to be surrounded by love. So
indeed,
we have an installation. I appreciate you all for coming on tonight. I love your different perspectives. Yvelette, let's start with you. Where can people find you? Where can they get the books and all of that?
Absolutely. You can find me at YveletteStines.com, and my books are on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Books A Million. The journals are specifically on Amazon. And if you go there, and I'm Yvelette Stines on all social media as well.
Okay, you next, David.
Oh, sorry, I was going ahead. I was texting in the box here. So you can find me on social media. My IG is Mr. David McCullar, which is actually in the chat box.
Okay.
And then also you can find our website at inceptionep.com, and I'll put that in the chat box too.
Okay, and I'm gonna also put this onto the Facebook Live as well for people. And I'll definitely, when you guys open back up, David, I will be coming.
Okay.
Like seriously, I was literally about to make my doggone appointment, and because that was part of one of my birthday gifts to myself. I was like, I'm going for my, so I'll be seeing you hopefully in a few months or whenever.
Right.
Okay, so Mahogany, for you, Mahogany Jones, Jonz.
Yep, that's on Instagram. So it's Mahogany spelled normal and then Jonz on Instagram, and my website is www.mahoganyjones.com. And yeah.
I love it. So I appreciate you all. Toya, where can they find you, Family Matters Counseling?
On Facebook, I am FM Counseling Michigan. My website is fmcounselingmichigan.com. And on Instagram, I am Dr. La-Toya Speaks.
All righty. So I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for
I enjoyed this.
For the invite.
You're welcome. Toya, are you accepting new clients? Let's make sure.
I do not have any openings myself, but I have 4 clinicians who offer evening and weekend availability, and they do have openings. So if you go to the website, you can see a profile for each of the clinicians.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you all.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.